today about something that is bothering me, which is the status of games as an aesthetic form. Now, I believe games are an aesthetic form, something like music, literature, painting, dance, and so on. This seems plainly obvious to me. I think they always have been. And the rise of the video game, which appears so much more like these other things, has brought most people, I believe, around to thinking about games in this way. But even as we celebrate a new kind of awareness regarding what games are and what they can do and how they fit into our lives, there is something about this that bothers me, that makes me want to say, wait, games aren't quite so much like these other things after all. It's a little hard to describe this feeling that bothers me, because something like this. Games have a wildness, a strangeness to them. And sometimes I feel like what we're doing when we talk and think and write about games as an aesthetic form is to domesticate them, to tame this wildness, explain this strangeness, and hang it on our walls, display it in our parlors and museums, and preserve it in our history books. Because when I compare these other things to games, music, literature, painting, dance, and so on, that's a little bit what they feel like to me, a little domesticated, comfortable, institutionalized, safe. But this is not to say that games do not belong to the realm of aesthetics. In fact, the wildness, the strangeness that I sense about them, this aspect of games is exactly the thing that marks them as an aesthetic form to me. Rather, it is this historical moment at which our collective attention is on games and our understanding of them is shifting to consider them within the context of aesthetics. This moment offers a rare and valuable opportunity to look at this whole category of human activity. Creativity, aesthetics, art, to say, what is it? How does it work? What do we want from it? How do we want it to fit into our lives? Asking these questions begins by acknowledging the discomfort of our thoughts, the way that we squirm a little when we talk about placing games beside these other activities, the way we twist and squeeze them to fit into this category. But what if instead of twisting and squeezing games, we could break open this category, dismantle it, take it apart, and put it together again differently? Because I like this feeling of wildness, this strangeness. This is what aesthetics should feel like. And we have an opportunity to recapture that feeling. For those years, he wasn't a philosopher doing architecture. He was an architect designing a house. As a designer, he was obsessed, lavishing endless time and money on every aspect of the house in pursuit of a precise, coherent vision. Here are several quotes from the critic Bernard Leitner, who has written extensively about the house. The house only appears to be static. Motion is an intricate part of Wittgensteinian architectural aesthetics. How doors and window doors are opened and closed, the way one interacts with the house, the way spaces interweave, how light reflects on the polished, lacquered, color surfaces of the floor, metal doors, and walls. All of these factors give the building its temporal dimension. Many aspects of Wittgenstein's aesthetics can only be deciphered through time and movement. Ludwig Wittgenstein gives movement form based on the laws of mechanics. In contrast to the machine aesthetics of the 20s, movement to Wittgenstein is mechanics, level, weight, support, energy, friction. Throughout his life, he took endless delight in the infinitely complicated details of the world. It is well known that in addition to being one of the most important novelists of the 20th century, Nabokov was also a serious and committed lepidopterist. This was a lifelong pursuit, starting from when he was 7 years old, continuing up until his final days. And it appears to have been both an obsession and a source of deep pleasure. Much more than just a hobby, he structured his life around it, collecting and analyzing butterflies, writing serious scientific papers on the subject, and contributing in substantial ways to the field of lepidoptery. But like Wittgenstein's house, I'm less interested in what Nabokov contributed to lepidoptery, and more interested in what lepidoptery contributed to Nabokov. What were the qualities of that experience? What did it mean to him? What were the values and pleasures and meaning he got from collecting and studying butterflies? Was it a recreation, a pastime? The idea of chasing butterflies is almost a cliche of something trivial, distracting, ephemeral, childish. Is that what we think? Was this a distraction from Nabokov's serious work as a novelist, translator, and poet? Over here we have the novels that delight us, comfort us, and amaze us. And over here we have the butterflies that delighted and comforted and amazed him. They don't look very much alike. One is storytelling, poetry, the weaving together of ideas and images and language into a lucid dream that opens up a window onto the world. The other is chasing beautiful insects, to study their form, to contemplate their extraordinary inhuman beauty, and understand how the distinct features that express this beauty are also symbols in a complex system of logic, graphemes in a genetic language that expresses delicate, precise truths about the deep systems of reproduction, nature, and survival. Another kind of window onto the world. We know that he loved chess. He played it his whole life at a very high level, even representing France in a bunch of important international tournaments. Writing and publishing a highly technical, theoretical book on a particular aspect of certain rare endgame situations. And chess seemed to embody for Duchamp a supremely cerebral and intellectual activity. Partly as a result of Duchampian influence, we tend to think of contemporary painters as abstruse, theory-spouting, hyper-intellectuals. But in his time, it was a bit of the opposite cliche. The French used to have an expression, d'être bête comme un peintre, to be stupid like a painter. And we know he contemptuously referred to painters as being intoxicated with turpentine. And you can imagine that the logic and precision of chess was like a kind of antidote to the intoxication brought on by an overindulgence in visual beauty and other retinal effects. But if chess was hangover medicine for an art drunk on beauty, then it was certainly hair of the dog. Duchamp famously refused to see a hard distinction between chess and art. He spoke eloquently of the aesthetic qualities of the game. Here's a quote from Duchamp. In chess, there are some extremely beautiful things in the domain of movement, but not in the visual domain. It's the imagining of the movement, or the gesture, that makes the beauty, in this case. It's completely in one's gray matter. A lens that magnifies the meaning of our actions. Small changes in the initial conditions explode exponentially to enormously different outcomes. A golf club is a simple machine that magnifies physical force. The game of golf is a simple machine that magnifies cause and effect itself. That we may drown in it. That we may, for a Sunday morning, escape from it. And that's just golf. I don't even like golf. I like monkey ball. I love video games a lot. I love German board games. I love authored games that are clear cultural works, tiny packages of attributes and qualities. But the games which have reached into my life and changed me as a person, the games that have opened up a window onto the world, where even if I'm not an expert, I get that little tingle of specialist knowledge, that feeling of being part of the conversation, of belonging to the tribe. These games are fields of study, avocations like architecture, lepidoptery, chess. And if our discussion of aesthetics can't acknowledge these games that are too big to fit into our existing institutions and buildings and vocabulary, then those things must change to make room. Let's swallow the wildness, the strangeness, and give up easy comfort for useful pain, to see the important work of our lives from the outside in. I believe that games are valuable and meaningful in ways that are like art and unlike art. The mythical future game, the game that all will recognize as a masterwork because it resembles a Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, or a new descending a staircase, or Lolita. This is a tidy messiah whose arrival I do not expect, do not believe in, and whose comforting familiar reassurances I do not want. Instead, consider Duchamp's endgames, Nabokov's butterflies, and Wittgenstein's doorknobs, and let us prepare for a future stranger and more beautiful than a million boring masterpieces could ever deliver.